The answer is yes. They were completely orthogonal. It wasn't until I had that stakeholder dialogue that I knew, and it was with my girlfriend who I was living with at the time, and the consequence is that we broke up. which actually was a good decision as opposed to torturing each other. So, embrace the change.
One of my stakeholder dialogues was with my son, and my expectation going into that stakeholder dialogue was pretty low. Didn't really know what can I expect from a 16-year-old. And interesting enough, first of all, he was very, very open. As soon as we started to talk, I explained to him what I'm doing, so I used the class as an excuse, I have to admit. And he was pretty open, and then he said, yeah, Dad, we should talk more on the phone, we should send us emails, we should share more about the day-to-day life, which I thought before is pretty mundane to share with a 16-year-old. But he said, I understand then more where you are, and you understand more where I am. So it was a very positive, and I would say from at the beginning where I put in the graphic pretty low, changed to pretty high today, and we have now plans to go on vacation in summer, so a lot has changed. So I would say there's a good possibility, and it's a surprise how the other side react when they feel you come in to talk really with them about the two of you.
I work for a group of companies, so basically the subsidiaries are my clients. So they will have a problem, and the head office, the headquarters of the group will ask me to go in and address a problem, basically. So I decided to have a stakeholder dialogue with the acting CEO of one of the subsidiaries. And what came out of that conversation was, it was very flattering because he wanted me to stay with the company. But so it was very flattering, especially what he wanted me to do. It was a lot of responsibility, etc. But it was not in alignment with my goals for what I wanted to do in terms of staying with the group. So I didn't know how to, so it was very, even now I'm having a hard time articulating it. It was a very difficult conversation because I didn't want to jump out and say, well, no, I'm not interested, because you don't want to upset the dynamics, because you have to work with this person in the future. And then I also was taken aback because I wasn't expecting him to articulate this whole vision that he had for me to be within a subsidiary. So my politics background came into hand, very helpful here. And I just said, well, this is an exercise that I was doing for class, and I'm just trying to get an idea of expectations, and I'm very flattered by what you've said here, and I reiterated my vision, and I also reiterated the fact that I had a superior. And so any decisions that were made about my future in the company really would have to involve discussions with him. Now here's where it did come in handy, because by the time I got around to having the discussions with my boss, which another thing is to, when you're having your work dialogues, think about in what order you want to have them. When I had the discussions with my boss, and we sort of started talking about basic expectations, I mentioned this discussion that he had had, and all of a sudden I think he started to see me in a different light, because he said, well, that's very nice, but I don't want that. Here's what I want you to do with the group. And all of a sudden it stepped up. His expectations of me stepped up. So that kind of turned out well for something that started out as an uncomfortable moment.